I'm Susie Russell, coordinator of the Community Supported Agriculture Network UK, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on a fair income for fair food, solidarity payments for CSA farms. It's lovely to welcome Elske Hageraats. She's a peasant farmer, activist for food sovereignty, writer and teacher. And after she graduated from university, she decided to become an agroecological peasant farmer. She had noticed that since the 1950s, in the Netherlands, they were losing on average 14 farms every day. And that was mostly because of the challenge of earning a decent wage. For people who were already farming were stopping, and people who were looking at farming as an option didn't want to start because they didn't know that they were going to be able to make a living. So she spent quite a lot of time visiting farmers across the Netherlands and abroad and listening to their stories and trying to find solutions to how to earn a fair income from farming. She collected all these ideas together in the book Fair Wage that she published in 2021. And then she went on to develop a new method of payment in farming, which she called the solidarity payment. And that's what she's going to talk to us about tonight. This webinar is a partnership between the CSA Network UK, the Seed Sovereignty Programme run by the Gaia Foundation and the Organic Growers Alliance, and forms part of a webinar series funded by Farming the Future, to whom we're very grateful. The programme focuses on practical teaching and farmer-to-farmer knowledge exchanges from farmers and growers around the UK. The series is designed to increase knowledge exchange and learning on both the politics and practice of agroecology, seed sovereignty and food sovereignty. If you'd like to be involved in running a webinar, or there's a theme or practice you would like to know more about, or have a specific topic you'd like to present on, please get in touch with us at csanetworkuk@gmail.com. So without further ado, I will hand over to Elske. Thanks, Elske.
Thanks a lot for the nice introduction, and hello everyone. I've been running very hard to find a laptop because mine broke down, so I'm still a little bit recovering my breath. Forgive me for that. I will now try to share my screen so that you can see the presentation, because I prepared some nice pictures, and I see that Zoom tells me host disabled participant screen sharing. So I think that I have to be enabled to share my screen.
Try now.
I'll try it again. Yes, there it works. Then I think I need this one. And then I can make it bigger. Oh. Yes, I hope you can all see it now. Does it work for everyone? Yes?
It's working. If you can do it as a slideshow, we won't get the top of your...
Yes, well, this is not my laptop, so I have to see how to do that. I guess this one. Yes, perfect. All right. So I think you can now all see the full screen. So again, welcome everyone. It's really nice to meet you. I think a lot of you are also farmers, if I understood correctly. So it's really nice to get in contact with fellow colleagues always. I will share a little bit about the story that was already told of finding a fair income for farmers. So I studied in the Netherlands, in Wageningen University, biology and rural sociology. And when I was done with that, one of the things you could do is to advise farmers on how to grow better food, or all these things, but I had actually zero practical experience. So I found that weird. I really missed the gap. There was a big gap between theory and practice, and therefore I chose to do a practical education. In Dutch we say MBO, really to become an organic farmer. First, that was also very from an ideological point of view, because I thought it was important to work more on food sovereignty and agroecology and restoring the soil and all these things. But meanwhile, I found it very wonderful to work in the farm, and I thought I don't want to go back to an office anymore. So I became a farmer, and I did my internship at a garden called Ommuurde Tuin. I'll speak about that more. Later on I could start there as a freelancer. So then I was working there for 7.5 years in total. Unfortunately, last March I had a surgery on my shoulder and I had to quit. So right now I focus more on teaching, and also I want to dive more into writing again, stories for fair income. So I'm also very happy now to share this story with you all, and I hope it can help you and you can get inspired by it. By the way, before I forget to mention, if you want to get in contact, if you have any ideas, or if you want to ask some questions, you can always send me an email. And my email is here at the bottom. And I also have a website called eerlijkloon.eu. It's right now still in English, in the Netherlands, in Dutch, but I want to make sure that it gets into more languages. So hopefully next year it will be translated also. All right. I will first show you a little bit the farm where I worked for 7.5 years and where I started with a solidarity payment. I put some nice pictures so you just get an idea. So the Ommuurde Tuin, this is a nice picture from above. It's a CSA of 1 hectare, and we have 90 veggie boxes. So it's not pick your own, but people get a box, and they pay in the beginning of the year, and then they become a member, actually an owner of a part of the harvest, and they can collect this harvest every week in a veggie box. So we decide, actually nature decide what needs to be harvested. We harvest it, we wash it, we weigh it, we put it in a bag, and people can pick it up either at the farm or at a city close by at pickup points. We are extremely biodiverse. We have over 400 varieties of veggies, mainly veggies, and also herbs and fruit, but it's mostly vegetables that we produce. Well, this is how it looks like from a human perspective. So yeah, it's a lot of different varieties. You can see over here on the left, this is our Bokashi compost heap. So that is, yeah, it's a technique kind of from Japan, where it's a kind of fermentation instead of composting. But it's really nice. It saves a lot of back pain because you don't have to turn over your compost heap all the time. You can just put it under plastic, and then without oxygen, it does its job. And then at the end of the year, we can open it up and put it on the land again. It works really well. It's also vegan agriculture, so we don't use any animal manure. We only use plant-based fertilizer, so to say. Not because I am against animal manure, but simply because we want to have nutrient cycles as close as possible. So therefore, we since we don't have animals on our farm, because we don't live there, that's why we use everything plant-based. And now all of a sudden it's very fashionable and it's called vegan farming. So we are very fashionable at the moment. We do spend a lot of time and attention to the soil, probably like I guess most of you do. So we're working a lot with green manure, and in winter we are, the owner of the garden and me, we are teaching a course called Agroecology in Practice, where we really train people to start their own farm, because we really see it as a movement that we really need to have more organic or agroecological food production in the Netherlands. And in order to do so, we really want to train people. And luckily, there are a lot of people interested. So that's cool. We have 40 participants a year. And here you see us digging a hole. So they're going to see how big is the humus layer. I think that's English also. Like the black, beautiful black fertile topsoil. And it's quite a lot because we started with practically nothing 21 years ago. And the owner, yeah, gives a lot of attention to the soil, and we build it up like that. Well, this is another picture from the garden. Lots of varieties, lots of colors, really beautiful. And you can understand why I prefer to be here instead of in an office. So I'm really glad that I've been working and learning so much here on the land. Well, when this is ready, then we harvest it, and then we bring it to the front of the garden. And you see me here. This is in winter time. We're washing the veggies, and we have an intern. This is Ivy. She's from Ghana, and she's learning also here all about CSA and agroecology. And then we have a lot of students from Wageningen University, for example, who come and learn in practice to, yeah, how it works with food sovereignty, with agroecology, organic food production, but also the concept of CSA, which is already there for quite a while, but some countries really don't know it at all yet. And that also really made me think like I want to write more about this, because it's a really beautiful way to find solutions and get a better income and work on food production together as a community. So I also am now working on that and writing on that, so I can also spread the message of community supported agriculture in other countries. Well, we are washing here the veggies, and then they go to our farm shop that we have twice a week. We put them all out there and people can come and see what's there in the moment. They buy it. And the rest goes to our veggie boxes. So here you see some of them. The ones here, the green ones, are small. Then we have here the medium size, and then we have here the large ones. That's for a family. This is for 2 people, and this is for 1 person. We put names, and then everyone can collect their crate every week or pick it up at the pickup point. So yeah, that is until now the nice part of the story. But now we go to the challenge that we face. So in the Netherlands right now, actually, there are a lot of protests. Here you see mainly big-scale conventional farmers protesting. There's a really clash, and it's getting really out of hand almost. More and more incidents are happening, and they're blocking the roads, the highways. As you can see here, there's a lot of anger. Whenever I go on the highway now, I see everywhere signs from farmers saying, screw the government, all these things. They're really angry, and I get their anger also. But sometimes I think the point is missed, because there is a big clash between farmers saying, we don't want to have less animals. We don't want that our land is used to start nature. And I think it is important that conventional agriculture needs to change, because there are way too much animals in the Netherlands stacked upon each other. Yeah, really things need to change. But I think the really main core of the problem is the fact that the income is very low. Farmers cannot take out half of their cows, for example, because they are already earning sometimes below the cost of production. So how can you get rid of half of your cows? It means that you go bankrupt. So the really problem here is income. And I have been diving into the income part, because myself as a farmer, I was earning half of the minimum income in the Netherlands. I started with €5 an hour. It grew a bit, but yeah, it was still way too little. And I thought, are we bad entrepreneurs, or is this something that's happening more? And I started to talk more to colleagues, and everyone was saying, yeah, also the small scale CSA farmers saying, we are earning way below the minimum income. And that's when I started to think like, what's going on and how can we do something about this? I went to the Central Bureau of Statistics in the Netherlands, and I looked at data. As an anthropologist and a researcher, I also like that side. And I made a graph, and this is the graph that I made. And we see here that we have a really big decline in farms. So on this axis, you see the amount of farms times 1,000. And here you see the time. So it's like from the 1950s up to now. And on average, it meant that we are losing 14 farms every day in the Netherlands. I think this trend is happening worldwide, but yeah, also here in the Netherlands, which is considered a very modern country. A lot of people are looking up to our way of agriculture, and they have no idea that this is our reality, that from every 7 farms we had in 1950, there's only 1 left and 6 are gone. And I think the biggest problem here is the income problem. So another other data that I looked into, official data, said that 1/3 of all the farmers in the Netherlands, so small scale, big scale, organic, conventional, doesn't matter, 1/3 is earning below the minimum income. And if you leave out subsidies, which would make it actually more accurate, it's even half of the farmers who are earning below the minimum income. And yeah, then I started to say, okay, let's meet up and let's go and talk to other farmers and see how it goes. So I had my questions, and before I started doing that, I went to a friend who started a farm in Arnhem, a city close by. And she was asking me, Els, how much should I ask for my veggie box? Maybe €5? And I thought, wow, that's really little. €5. I mean, come on, you need to spend a lot of time in administration, in putting your compost. You need to pay insurance. You need to put money aside for retirement. Like, what are we talking about? And that was the moment where I came up with the idea to disconnect food from money and to connect it in a way to something we all understand a bit better. So I came up with the idea to ask people, what is the wage that you want to give to me? So instead of selling my veggie box, I say my veggie box is now for free. You can have it for free. But it takes me 1 hour to produce this box. That is administration, putting compost, sowing, planting, putting the irrigation, a lot of weeding and hoeing. I have to harvest it, I have to wash it, I have to put it into a veggie bag. And part of those veggie bags I even have to bring to a pickup point in the city. All that together, on average, takes me 1 hour. And I go to the people and I ask them, what is the wage that you want to give to me? Preferably based upon your own income. Yeah, so if you are a farmer and you are, for example, a dairy farmer and you're making some cheese, then you can, and you're earning a really little income, maybe you pay me €5 per hour, it's fine. But when you work in ICT or you're a consultant or you're the top of the university here, you can pay me maybe €100 an hour. So we kind of switch our wage, 1 hour of your wage from 1 hour of my time. And this is a very interesting thing that happened because I was earning half of the minimum wage. And in order to get a minimum wage, I needed to double the prices. But no one would probably accept that, to all of a sudden have to pay double the amount. Especially because, like the slide we saw before with the demonstrating farmers, there's a lot of problems, like the supermarkets are having such a monopoly position that they can offer really low prices to the farmers, and the farmers have no position to say no. They have to, they have to say yes to it, because otherwise the supermarket goes abroad and find cheap food there. You know, like our negotiation position is really bad. And so that leads to very low prices in the supermarket. So people are used to really low prices that you find there. So when you ask a fair price, and I would have to, for example, double the price of my food, then people would think, no, but this is way too much. Then I go to the supermarket. So disconnecting food from money, leaving that all out of the picture, and just saying, would you like to give me as a person a fair income for the time that I work? I'm working really hard on the land. You know, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's 30 degrees. I'm working for your veggie products. I'm really doing my best, but I would really like to get at least the minimum wage. Then people, it's a psychological thing. People would not say very quickly no, because you're a human being. So it's a really shift of thinking, and it worked extremely well, actually. So 1 year later, after we introduced this at Ommuurde Tuin, the owner, she got an error from the bank saying, well, I see that via automatic incasso, I don't know if that's correct English, automatic subscribing of money, you are earning now €10,000 more, so you made a calculation mistake. And my boss said, no, I didn't. It's just the result of asking this simple question to the people. And yeah, that worked really well. So there were more and more farmers getting interested, of course, because it takes a very little thing. You don't have to add value. You don't have to do a lot of different things. You just simply make another subscription form with this question. And you say, from now on, this is the only way of subscribing to the farm is to answer this question. And that's it. So it's really easy to implement, and it works very well. So yeah, more and more farmers were getting interested, and yeah, they started to introduce it. So to go a little bit more into it, The solidarity payment, I called it solidarity because it is in solidarity with the producer, because I hope that I will get at least a minimum income, preferably a bit more even. It's in solidarity with the people, with my members from the garden, because everyone can have access to my food. And that's a thing I find extremely important, because healthy food is a human right. And so if we are going to produce food that is really expensive, then we leave out a lot of people, including myself. I wouldn't be able to pay for my own veggie box then, which is of course strange. So I want everyone to have access to food, whether you have a really enormous income or you have a really shitty income. Everyone deserves food. I think that's a principle of food sovereignty as well. It's in solidarity with future generations, because my farm, the farm where I work, can now continue. There is enough money so that the farmer won't collapse in a burnout. When the shed breaks down because of crazy storms, then we can repair it. When there is enormous heat and climate change, we can invest in solutions. So it's, when you talk about sustainability, it's also about making sure that your farm that you worked so hard for can be passed on to the next generation, so it's not lost, and that people want to take over, that you don't have to work 70 hours a week for a really shitty income. Because yeah, most farmers I know tell their children, don't go into farming, go to the city, because it's not possible anymore. That's something we don't want, of course. And fourth, it's in solidarity with the earth, with the environment, the animals, the soil, etc. Because we make sustainable production possible by paying fair prices, by being able to cover those costs that belong to sustainable production. So altogether, we are doing that, and that's why it's called solidarity. So a little bit more into it. How does it work? So I asked you already that I'm looking at my working hours. As a farmer, I have to do all these things, and I add up all these hours. I have to keep track of them, and that's the thing you need to do a bit to invest throughout the year. And then you divide all your working hours by the amount of members you have, or by the amount of veggie boxes you have. So then you know per person or per veggie box how many hours it takes to make it. And then you ask the wage. So you ask, what is the amount of money you want to pay me per hour? That's decided by the member, and you ask them that it's based on their own income. We're not checking that because it takes way too much time, and I also don't like that. I like to give the trust to people, and probably it's not 100% based upon it, but it's just the idea. So then, I get for my working hours a relatively fair income. But of course, there's also the costs. So you also have to add that, the cost per person. So that means the cost from the farm. I have to rent the land. I have to buy seeds, seedlings. I have to fix my tools. There's machinery, the irrigation. I have to buy compost and a lot of other things. So I also show this, and it's very important that you're transparent about it. So you give a nice overview of all the things that you have, and then what it costs. And even if there is something like you have land, and for now it's you have it for free, for example, still it's important that you put it there and you put a 0, so that when all of a sudden the person who owns the land says, now I want you to pay a higher price, or I want you to pay all of a sudden 1,000 euros for it, then you can see it already as a in the list, so people understand better where it comes from. And right now we see that people are much more understandable now that a lot of prices are increasing because of the war and the whole situation. They simply see, yeah, of course, transport costs go up. So yeah, we can see that now in the nice overview of the cost. So people understand it much more, and then they're much more willing to pay a bit more for it. That was the cost of the farm. There's also the cost of the farmer, so the person who's working there, because we need insurance. we need retirement, put money aside for retirement. We have holiday money, like everyone else in the Netherlands, so we should also ask that, why not? And last, there is insurance. In the Netherlands, we have this bread fund. That's really nice, affordable solidarity insurance kind of. So you can give an overview of all the costs of the farm and the farmer, so people can see that, transparent, you're honest about it, and they can check it, and then they understand better where the price comes from. And then optional, there is delivery costs. So when I have to bring my veggie boxes to pickup points in a city, that takes me time, and it costs me a bike or maybe even fuel when the pickup points are further away. So that's an optional adding of costs. Well, this is how it works, the solidarity payment, and this is how you can communicate it to your members. But this is also a bit complicated. So in order to make it more easy, you can just make a list. So this is an example from Eetmeer Bos, a farm in Nijmegen, who started solidarity payment. He started with 12 euros an hour, and 1 year later he was earning 21 euros an hour, simply by asking this question. So he listed here, this is the wage for the farmer, and you can give him 10 euros per hour or 21 euros per hour, up to 34 euros an hour. And then with the calculation that I showed before, this is the total amount that someone has to pay. Yeah, so then it's the wage times the hours that he spent working on the farm and the cost that he has to pay per person. So per person, he asks then, if you want to give him 21 euros per hour, it means that per year you will have to pay him 268 euros and 61 cents. So this is how you can make it nicely visible for your members. So you mentioned wage, and you mentioned the total cost per veggie box or per person, and then people can select what they want to give. Something that's very important here that we saw, because it's nice, we started this new idea and a lot of farms are trying it out in the Netherlands, and with some it worked better than with others. And one thing that we found was really, really important to do is to think about the target price and to give that a nice green color, or to put that at least in the middle and not all on the side. So the farmer of Eetmeer Bos, he put 21 euros in the middle, and we have been looking a lot with economic advisors. We have been making calculations that probably, because it doesn't exist, but probably this is the modal wage per hour in the Netherlands. It's a calculation we make. We're not economists, but we guess it's around there for freelancers. So this is the I think in English you say gross income. So you still have to pay your retirement and insurance and all these things from it, and your tax and everything. So yeah, this is a whole new search, and I was thinking it's really nice if everyone in the Netherlands earns approximately the same amount per hour, which is a very crazy idea apparently, because it doesn't exist. We have all these boxes, like people working in a bank have to earn this, farmers have to earn that, when you're a teacher you earn that. But I think, it would be nice if everyone earns approximately the same amount of money. And we think it's around 21 euros. And so he said, well, I'm a farmer, I'm producing food, but I'm also mitigating climate change. I am working on biodiversity. I'm putting a lot of values there for society. So I think I have all the right to a modal income. And that's why he puts 21 euros in the middle. And the funny thing is that your target price that you also put in the middle and mark green is the price that often you end up getting. So in Ommuurde Tuin, our target price was a minimum income, because we thought, wow, it would be so amazing if we can one day get a minimum income and have an insurance. That would be so amazing. So we put 16 euros as a kind of target price. And then we ended up getting 17 euros an hour. But Tim, the farmer of Eetmeer Bos, says, no, I want to have this modal income as that's my target price. And he indeed got 21 euros an hour on average. So again, pinpointing this target price is really important. So there's other farms who have all kinds of other visualizations. So this is, for example, a kind of price scale. This is from a small scale CSA called Wilde Peen in Ede. And they show here again, this is the wage for the farmer. And then this is the total amount of money that you have to pay. So that includes the costs also. So people can understand it better. And then they also indicate this is the minimum wage for a ZZP'er, for a freelancer. So it's really important to really explain that to people. This is a really nice schedule made by Stadsgroenteboeren in Amsterdam. So it's in English also. They made like a nice symbols. So again, here, they give here an example. If you pay me 17 euros per hour, this is how it looks like. So you pay me 70 euros, that includes retirement, holiday money, insurance, and taxes. It takes us 1.5 hours to work per person to produce food for you per week. The fixed costs are 8 euros. So that means 33.5 euros per week. And you can come and pick up your veggie box for 30 weeks. So in total, that's 1,005 euros when you are picking it up at the farm. And when you pick it up in the city, then it's, you pay a little bit more for it. And they ask again, what is the wage you want to give? So if you want to spend less money per hour or more money per hour, you change this. And then, of course, the total price per year that you pay is different. To add up that, the solidarity payment, what is very important is the communication with your members. So when you earn below the minimum income and you don't tell that to anyone, people have really no idea. Like when we were saying we're earning below the minimum income and we would like to work towards it, everyone's like, what? You're earning below the minimum? Oh, that's really, really horrible. Of course, no, you should earn more. So people really have no idea that we earn so little. And people also have no idea how much time it takes to produce vegetables and how much cost you have. It's something they really don't know. And so it's important to speak about it, even though you feel uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable to speak about your income. But you have to see this not as a personal thing. It's a thing that is happening around the world, that producers, whether it's agriculture or clothes or whatever, producers are earning a very low income. And this is something we have to speak up. It's also important that you say that with the CSA, you are doing more than only producing food. So that is the whole big difference between arable farms, for example, where you have 30 hectares of a monoculture of beetroots, for example, as we see here in the Netherlands. As a CSA, you're not only producing food, you are also working on biodiversity, you are building up the soil, you're mitigating climate change, you are keeping alive all kinds of old varieties of vegetables. You are sometimes providing a place where people can come with, for example, a burnout or a trauma, or when they lose someone, or refugees who want to learn to speak the language. It's much more. It's a whole community thing with so much more values, and it's good to mention this to your members, so they feel proud that they are part of this initiative that is much more than only food production. So the third thing that's really important, that turned out really important because we have been monitoring different farms who started solidarity payment, turned out to be that you have to be really transparent about your hours and about your costs. And you can do that by, for example, making a PDF where you give an overview of the hours you work and all the costs you have. So people can always have a look where it comes from, and they understand more the value and they understand more why they have to pay that amount of money. And lastly, like I already mentioned, is the target price. So really go for the model income of your country, mark it green, put it in the middle. My cat is hungry. And that's the target price. And then it it really often turns out that the target price you have is what you end up on averagely getting. So that is important. For now, are there any questions? Is it clear? Let me see, pause share. How do I go back? Show this video.
You go up to the top, it should say stop share.
Okay, yeah, resume share, and then I have to stop share. Okay.
We've got one question from Rachel asking, which you've kind of answered, I think, but I don't know if you want to elaborate. Do you know of any other CSAs that have implemented this system or a similar one, and how has it worked for them?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, so I already showed several CSAs that implemented it, and it's nice that everyone gives its own twist to it, like the way they present it. There was a farm, the Wilde Tuin, for example, who put 12 euros per hour in the middle, because they came also from 6, I think, something like that. And I said, no, this is not the idea, because your target price should be at least the minimum wage, but preferably a modal wage. So they were like, oh, sorry, and they changed it and put the right price in the middle, and now they're earning a better price. So that was nice to see. Yeah, there's all kinds of farms who do different things of solidarity income. And there is also more examples other than solidarity payment that I will also talk about later. I just want to give a little moment here to say if there is any remarks, or if people understand the idea of solidarity payment, or if regarding that topic there are any questions that I can already answer.
Rachel says, thank you for that answer. And I've got a question from Emma, who's asking, how do you go about communicating this to your customers or members?
Thank you. That's a good question, and an important one. So in the first year, we had an option to do that. So we had a form, and only that year, only 2 people changed. And one of that was the researcher who did research with me on this topic. So that was really, bad. Only 2 people out of 90 veggie boxes. So then after a while, I kind of got the courage and believed that we should go for it. And I convinced my boss, and she was really scared, really scared, because she thought, oh, if it fails, everyone will walk away, and then we'll be bankrupt within 1 year because we don't have any savings. So it was really scary to do this. But she said, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna give it a try. And what we did is I printed out the forms, which said, what is the wage you want to give to me? And I handed them over in person to my members, saying, hey, thanks for being a member, but at the moment we are actually earning below the minimum income, and we would like to work towards it. Would you like to help us with that? Please fill out the form. And then everyone did. And everyone, I think almost 5 people gave a price less than that. And they really apologized, saying, we're really sorry about this, but our budget is really tight. And I said, don't, because the whole idea of solidarity payment is that it's a fair income for us on average, but it's also that everyone has access to food. And this is also important to communicate, that when people have a tight budget, they shouldn't feel bad paying you less than the target price. This is an important point of communication. Really explain to them that solidarity payment is also in solidarity with the people and the members. So yeah, it's kind of forcing them. This is just the subscription form. This is the only way you can subscribe. Take it or leave it. And actually everyone wants to join. Because we're not forcing them into anything. They can still pay the same price if they want, but we just ask them a very modest question, which is, we would just like to have a minimum income. I think it's very modest. So most of the people were really shocked to hear the situation, and they were very glad to contribute. So yeah, if you leave it optional, people are often too busy and they think, oh, I don't get it, and no, whatever, no. But if you just force them, you say, this is just the way it is, that's it, this is our new form, everyone has to do this, before the start of the new year, then people do it.
So connected to that, someone's asked, how have families or people on low incomes interacted with this model? So you've kind of answered that a bit, but I guess I know when we introduced your model we did a series with 12 CSAs across the UK on different solidarity models. And one of the big questions was, yeah, but what do I do if the people in my membership are kind of half earning below the, you know, but if there's a lot of people on low incomes, how would that work? And yep.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is something that can happen. Of course, when your CSA is very close to a bigger city that is a bit more rich, then you end up having a better income. And when your CSA is close to a more poor area, then you have a bigger challenge regarding income. Even a friend of mine, he started a CSA in Colombia, where there is real poverty, and he also started solidarity payment. And yeah, we really have to, it's a new model, it's a new idea, and so we have to see how we can go around. And one very interesting thing that I liked a lot is a thing in that's happening now in Utrecht, in a city close by. They have this card for people with a very low income. It's called U-Pas, Utrecht Pass card. And it's a card for people with low income, and then they can select, there's a certain amount of budget on the card, a few €100 per year. And with that money, they can use it for different things that is enlisted on the card. And it's all kinds of memberships like sports, swimming, the library, all these kind of things that involves a membership. And the province of Utrecht also put CSA there. So people can also use this card to become a member of the CSA. And in this way, the municipality or the government can also help out in this way, you know, so that the farmer doesn't have to carry the weight of people with low income. And I think that's really, really beautiful. And I really want to support this and ask to a lot of municipalities in the Netherlands if they can please also think about this initiative like Utrecht is doing. So yeah, we have to find different ways for CSAs that are in areas where there is more poverty, in a sense. And yeah, that's per country and in between countries. So with the country with my friend in Colombia who started the CSA there, we were even thinking to do solidarity between CSAs, that we rethink the idea of community, we make it much broader. So for example, people who have a membership in the farm where I work, they can take an extra membership, and that money goes to a poor family in Colombia, so that they can have access to a veggie box there. So we can even think about a very big scale. So yeah, we have to be creative, and I think there's very nice ideas coming to make it happen still. Yeah.
Just connected to that question, and I probably didn't, have you noticed any difference in response to this kind of system from, say, a difference between an urban response or a rural response, or a difference in response between kind of socio-economic groups, etc.? Or is it sort of fairly general that people respond in the same way when you put this forward? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think most of the people are really enthusiastic. And in general, we see that people with a lower income tend to want to spend more money than people with a higher income. So people with a lower income want to pay their income or even a bit more. And people with a very high income, like €8 an hour, they say, we pay 30 or 35. So yeah, there's more solidarity between people with lower income, I think. Yeah, very interesting.
Thanks. Okay, a couple of practical questions. How do you track your hours? Do you have some kind of app or table?
Yeah, this is my phone. So I don't have apps or anything. I'm just writing them down. But yeah, feel free to do whatever works for you. I have also a little booklet that I just write my hours, and you don't have to define completely what you did, but you can just say roughly, today I worked so many hours. And you keep track of it for only 1 year, and then you have approximately what you work. I mean, we shouldn't go all the way into detail. It's more about the general idea, and that on average, it works for you.
Thanks. And then another question, Dan from School Farm CSA in the Southwest here in the UK is asking, so they have, and a lot of CSAs in the UK have different size veg boxes, like large, medium and small. How would you work the system with different size veggie boxes?
Yeah, so we have that also. We have a small, medium and large veggie box. And basically there's 2 things you can do. I think the easiest one is to say a small veggie box is for 1 person, a medium one is for 2, and for example, a large one is for 4. And then you simply just add up all the people. So you know how much 1 person veggie bag is times 1, the 2 person veggie bags is times 2, etc. So you know in total how much people you have. And then you can calculate your hours, all the hours you add up, and you divide them by all the members, the total amount of members. All the costs, you add them up and you divide them by the total amount of members. That's one way. Another way is to say, okay, I keep my hours and then I kind of guess if like a 1 person veggie bag will cost me half an hour, and then a 2 person will cost me 1 hour, and a large veggie box cost me then 2 hours. But I think the easiest is to just add up all the people and divide by all the people, and then you can calculate it in that sense. Does that make sense?
I think it does to me. Dan, if it doesn't to you, put something else in the Q&A. And meanwhile, there's a question from Ronan asking how it might work for a startup CSA. Like, would you just go for it and announce it? How would you do it?
Yeah, go for it and announce it. Really, it is hard to change prices. So it's best to immediately go for it. And also, like, there are a couple of CSAs that started last year, and they started with solidarity payment also, or a kind of system like that. And they were doubting, like, but in the first year, we still don't know so well how to do it. And maybe the harvest will be not so good because the soil is not so good. And I said, yeah, but you still have your cost and you still have your hours. And that's just part of the beginning. The first year will probably not be an amazing harvest compared to 10 years later, when your soil is beautiful and you have a beautiful balance in biodiversity. But it's okay, because it's not your farm, it's a community supported agriculture. So that part, the people become owner of a part of the harvest. And if that part of the harvest in the beginning is a little bit less, then yeah, that's what it is. And the 2 guys, for example, from Gelukkige Groentes, that sounds probably very funny in Dutch, but they are in Nijmegen, and they started up. And in the beginning, they had bad luck because the weather was very cold in the spring, and they had compost that wasn't of very good quality. And so the start of the year was a really bad harvest. There was almost nothing to harvest when they opened up. And there was not one single shareholder complaining about it. They were all like, it's really nice. You start this here in my neighborhood, and now you can have a CSA and I'm a member, and it's so amazing. Thank you so much for starting this and doing this. So don't worry about that too much. But communicate it. Be transparent about your hours, your costs, but also about this. Like, hey guys, the first year, it will probably be more challenging. We have to get to understand our soil and the climate and how it works. And we have to build up our soil together. So know that in the beginning, it might be a little bit less, but thanks a lot for supporting so we can start this initiative. I would really go for it.
Thanks. Nell's asked, how would you go about implementing solidarity payments in a member-led CSA? And I've just allowed her to talk, although I'm not sure she's going to. Let me just see. Yeah. Nell, if you want to unmute yourself, yeah. And then just explain, I guess, for the rest of the people, what you mean by a member-led CSA.
I cannot hear you.
We're struggling to hear you, Nell. Could you maybe retype your question with a little bit more detail? Meanwhile, I've got a question from Rachel. Do people sign up to an annual amount, or is it something they can change monthly? And I guess that, what would happen if somebody lost their job halfway through the year?
Yeah, so I think it's really important with CSA in the Netherlands that we really stimulate everyone who calls themselves a CSA that people have to pay upfront, because I always say I cannot pause my lettuce, it just grows. I have to make my orders in the beginning of the year. I have a lot of costs in the beginning of the year, and that's it. The only exception we make is when you move to another place, or when, for example, something terrible happens, like, I don't know, a partner dies or someone gets really ill. Of course, then you can, because you know your members, and then you can speak about it. But if someone says in the middle of the year, yeah, I just don't like it too much, so I quit, that's not an option. And another thing that's really interesting is that in the past, people could pause their veggie bag, kind of, when they would go on holiday. And then we said, no, you can't do that anymore, because we cannot pause our lettuce, so that's not an option. And what you can do is to give your veggie bag to, for example, the neighbors or family or friends, or someone who walks your dog while you're away. And the nice thing is that because of that, two amazing things happened. One was that we had way less waste, because the moment when we have the biggest part of the harvest, everyone is out on holiday. It's really horrible. And second of all, what happened was really nice is that the boxes, we still fill them and make them. And now they were collected by people, and those people saw it and they were like getting really enthusiastic about it. So it was like a free PR. And these people signed up and said, oh, we also want a veggie box next year. So being a bit more strict on people can also really help in your advantage a lot in several ways.
So Rachel, just to clarify, in your model, and I think it's quite unusual in the UK for people to pay up front for the whole year. Some CSAs offer it, and definitely there are some people that do it. But in your model, people are paying up front for the full year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You don't offer quarterly or monthly payments?
We don't offer it, but when people are on a really tight budget, they will ask us, and then we say, yes, you can do that. But it's not on our website. It's not an option in the subscription form, so that people who can pay it will pay it. And if you really can't pay it, you will ask us, and then that's always possible.
Okay, and then Nell's question. So again, I'm not sure whether this is the same across Europe or in the Netherlands, but in the UK, we have a kind of real range of CSA models, from producer-led, which would typically be a couple or two farmers who decide to earn a living from farming and then look for their members in the local community where they have land, or sort of at the other end, a community-led CSA where a community would say, we have no access to decent produce, so we're going to form some kind of legal entity, and then we're going to look for land and we're going to employ farmers to work for us. So Nell is from that kind of CSA, so it's a CSA led by a board of members rather than led by farmers, and she's wondering if you have any experience of CSAs like that implementing solidarity payments.
Not implementing solidarity payment yet, but we do have a whole new concept here called herenboeren. I can write it in the chat because it's probably a bit difficult. Herenboeren. And that's exactly the same, like it's community-led. So people come together, they find land, and they find a farmer who will work for them. And right now they are not working yet with solidarity payment, but I think it would be really nice, at least as far as I know, because I don't know what's happening all in the Netherlands. But I think it would be really nice if everywhere there will be more this option of paying the amount that you can instead of a fixed price, because that same price for some people will be terribly high, and for other people it will be very easy to pay. I think it's nice to pay a percentage of your income on food instead of a fixed price. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't know about community-led CSAs like Hageraats, for example, in the Netherlands, using solidarity payment yet. I don't know. No, but it could be very easily implemented as well.
Thanks. And I had a question which came up in our group was, say you have somebody who's earning quite a high wage per hour, but because of childcare, they're only maybe working a day a week or a couple of days a week. So they'd have a high wage, but actually their income over the week would be relatively low. Is there a sort of way of accounting for that?
Yeah, so I don't put that into a model or percentage or something. I'm just saying, indeed, preferably based on your own income and also based on your situation. So indeed, when you and I earn the exact same wage per hour, but you have 8 children and I have none, of course, then I can pay a bit more and you can pay a bit less. Or yeah, indeed, when you earn a really high income, but you work only 1 day a week, yeah, of course, you can level it out. It's more, again, it's about the feeling and the idea, and not getting really into difficult calculations with percentages and all these things. People can have the feeling, okay, this is where I earn, and this is my, yeah, in Dutch we say draagkracht. This is the yeah, the money I should on average give to another person who's working really hard for me. We don't check it. We don't ask your income. We don't ask your bank details. We don't ask how many children you have. It's really about the idea and the trust that you give to the people to be honest about it.
Thanks. And then Sam says, hi from the UK. Thank you. This is really clear and you're capturing some of the issues we're experiencing regarding how to communicate to our members. I love the idea of disconnecting food from money and solidarity, capturing solidarity for the people. Do you know of any CSAs in the UK operating this model? And I don't know if you do. I'm not sure of any, but I also wondered if there are CSAs elsewhere apart from the Netherlands in Europe operating on that model.
Yeah, like yeah, the only country abroad is Colombia that is using this, but there is also interesting models from other countries, especially in Germany, and I can talk a little bit about that. To show it's a similar idea. It's called Bieterrunde, and I found that on my way when I was talking to other farmers. In UK, I don't know yet, but right now my booklet has been translated to several languages among English, and there is a publisher who in the US who is interested in publishing it. But before doing that, they want to have more stories from different CSAs outside of the Netherlands, preferably also in the UK and the US, because yeah, it's going to be translated in English, published in English. So when you do hear of any nice examples, I would really be interested in it. And I actually, because I cannot work now anyways physically with my arm, my idea is to travel around in the coming month to some other countries and speak to farmers who have interesting ideas about this, to add that to the booklet. So if you have any idea, if you feel like it's nice, I would like to invite you and share a story, then I would be very happy to get in contact.
Thanks, Elske. So that's the end of the questions. I guess I did want to, yeah, I can just add, there are some CSAs, I'm not sure which Sam it is, but there is a CSA run by a Sam and a Judith and a Christy who are operating a model where, and there are a couple of CSAs doing this where they ask you to sort of define your income bracket, and then you pay a higher income, middle income, lower income, or unwaged price. So unwaged is free, low income is, I think, cost price, and then middle and higher income have a bit on top, which then subsidizes the other boxes. But it's quite new, and I'm not sure either of the CSAs I know of operating that model kind of know how it's coming out financially yet, but it'd be really interesting to get your input. Yeah. But yeah, that's the end of the questions for now. So we've got about 25 minutes.
Yeah, I will continue a bit with a few examples that I found. I hope you're not overwhelmed. And let me see. All right. Maybe I can make this a bit smaller. All right. So I started this idea of solidarity payment in the farm where I worked, and it was getting quite a big success, and more farms in the Netherlands were going to start it. And actually also companies that were not farms. So there was, for example, a coffee bar who wanted to do things with solidarity payment, and there was someone who was making furniture. And she said, yeah, like everyone is used to very cheap IKEA things, and I cannot produce for that. So she also started to work more with explaining the value of the product she made with solidarity payment. So it's not only, it started in agriculture, but of course it can grow towards many different kinds of businesses. Okay, here you see me going to one of the biggest CSAs in Europe, I think. It's the Kattendorfer Hof in the north of Germany, with many hectares, and they have their own shops, and yeah, it's really really nice. And in Germany, I learned about a really interesting concept that actually looks very much like solidarity payment, and it's called Bieterrunde. In Germany, CSAs are called Solawi, that stands for Solidarische Landwirtschaft, so solidarity agriculture kind of. And what most of those Solawis are doing is a Bieterrunde, so a bidding round, and that goes as follows. So the farmer, most of the time that's happening in winter when you have more time. The farmer brings all the people together on the farm, and then he presents all the costs. And all the costs are from the farm, which I already mentioned, like seeds, seedlings, compost, etc. And from the farmer. So he says, I'm working so many hours per year, and I want a decent wage. So here in the Bieterrunde, the farmer already decides on the wage that he wants to earn per hour. So that's for sure more than the minimum income. Then next thing that is presented is then the average costs per person. So he divides or she divides all the costs by the amount of people, and then you know the average cost per person. And the third round is then the bidding round. So people know the target price, they know the average cost per person that they have to pay so that the farmer can do his work and produce food in the coming season for all the people. So everyone has to put a bid, write down the amount that is close to the average cost. So again, when you're earning little income, when you're tight budget, you can pay a bit less. When you have more to spend, you can be a bit above the average cost per person. And then the fourth thing is what they do is then everyone put their bid, they add it all up and they check, is the total amount reached that is needed in order to produce food for this coming season? If not, they go back to step 3 and they say, sorry guys, you have to make your bid higher because there's not enough money, so I cannot farm. And then they do again a bidding round. Everyone bids a bit more, and then they check again, is the total amount reached? And then if it's a yes, then they can start. Then that is the money you pay for that year, and then the farmer starts. And the farmers I spoke to in Germany that are using the Bieterrunde, they said that most of the time only 1 or 2 rounds are needed. So very quickly, people actually, yeah, most of the time pay the average cost or even a bit more. So that's like an extra for the farmer to get a little bit extra income. This can be offline and online, so people can actually come together to the farm and yeah, be there and they see a PowerPoint presentation. But it can also be done online. Then you just send all the costs and the average costs online, and then people can send back either via email or in a Google form. Very simple. They can put their amount they want to pay, and then they can check it. So there's different ways, also Corona proof to do this Bieterrunde. And I think I really love this concept because as a farmer, he already puts his income, and it's really like, I don't know, it feels like you're not begging, like, please pay me something fair, but it's like, this is it. And if the money is not reached, I'm not going to start. Take it or leave it. So it kind of gives a bit more respect to yourself as a farmer. And I really like that. So I think it's a really nice way as well. Some other things I came across that I guess you're familiar with is a price scale that farmers are using. So then again, they put a green dot, and the green dot means that the costs are covered and the farmer earns a minimum income. I personally don't like it that they put this green dot there, because I think we should earn more than the minimum income, because we are making so much, adding so much value to society, that we should really be more proud of ourselves than begging for a minimum income. Which is something I was also for a long time doing, and then now finally I saw how ridiculous that was, and we really need to stand up for ourselves a bit more. Yeah, that's really important. Another thing they then do is when you pick it up in the city, they higher the price, so then you add it. So this is a price scale example that a lot of farms also use to make it to show that the price is not fixed, but everyone keeps access to food, no matter your income and budget. Then all kinds of other ideas that I found interesting, and it's really nice to add it to your company. First one is adoption. So you can adopt all kinds of things like chickens and fruit trees and nut trees and compost heaps and all kinds of stuff. For example, adopting a chicken, then you pay for a certain amount of money, and then the cost of the chicken is covered. So that's buying the chicken and giving the food and the fences and stuff like that. And then you can get free eggs throughout the season. And in the end, when the chicken is not producing enough eggs anymore, you can either take it home or alive, or you can take it as a soup chicken. I don't know how you say that in English. That you make a soup from, that because the meat isn't very soft anymore. You can adopt fruit trees, then you put a little sign next to it, and like there's farmers saying, wow, we put this out there, adoption of trees, and then within a month all our trees were adopted, and you just put a little sign in the name, like grandparents were buying these trees for their grandchildren so that they could still remember the grandpa and grandma who gave the tree to them when they grow old. It's like really beautiful. I really love that idea. Yeah, and so it works really well. The second idea that I liked a lot is CO2 compensation. So when people go on holiday and they want to compensate their CO2 because they fly, for example, there are all kinds of CO2 compensation projects that are quite horrible. Like I know that you can, for example, give money and then this company goes to Africa, and you hear a lot of stories that people then, that the government then takes the money and say, okay, we will plant trees, and then the land that they use for planting trees actually has people living there, and they are kicked out, and there is a fence around it, and the people are just kicked out of their own land, and then they plant trees, and the trees are not maintained well, so they all die. It's like really horrible things that are happening. So why not do CO2 compensation in our own country? And that can very well be if you want to, for example, start a food forest, or you want to plant whatever tree, that people can pay for it, and they can compensate their CO2 because the tree will put carbon into its body and in the soil. So that is really, I think I really like that a lot. And then it happens in your own country, so you can see it, and you know that there's no land grabs or violent displays of rural communities happening well with your good intentions. And the third one that I found that often really works well is a crowdfunding. So especially when you start a CSA, even if there's nothing there, if it's just a meadow or a bunch of weeds, do a crowdfunding, make a nice website, put beautiful pictures from other inspiring gardens or farms that you feel something you want to work towards, and invite people, do a tour, even if there's nothing to see. It's amazing. People just invite people, and farmers invite people, and they share their vision, what they want to do with this plot of land, and you can get a lot of money for crowdfunding, and in that sense really keep on reminding yourself that the CSA is a project from you and the community. So why should you be the one that has to take all kinds of different ways to get the money together? I mean, share your vision, share your dream, open up the crowdfunding, put nice pictures, and very often you'll be surprised that people are willing to support financially such nice projects.
I've got a couple of questions. I've just looked at the questions that came out of our workshops, and there were three things. One was whether you account for all of our CSAs use volunteers or have volunteers who come and do work. So whether that kind of labour is accounted for. The second question, quite a lot of our CSAs are diversified. So they might be providing 100 shares for members, but they'd also be doing some wholesale growing to sell to markets. Or so sort of, do you know of anyone, because that makes it slightly more complicated to sort of do the accounting. And then the third one was, does it allow for increasing production? So if you're doing 90 shares, but you want to go up to 120, kind of, how do you figure that in? I hope that's not too much to ask in one question.
Yeah, okay, let me see if I remember. The first one is about accounting the volunteers. We don't take their time into account, but actually it kind of should be, but we don't. Also because it's difficult, because we have volunteers who are, most of them are not professional farmers. Some people have a burnout, so they work really slow. Other people work really hard, and then it's really difficult to keep track of the hours. And on the other hand, it's also a deal. Like, we give them the feeling of community, of being part of something, being together, teaching them also all kinds of things about sustainable agriculture, and in return they help us out. But I have to admit that there are moments where I think, oh God, I could have done this way faster myself than instructing 5 people, and then you have to walk towards the other side and show them how to do it, and then it went wrong and you have to fix it, and it's like, so yeah, we decided not to do it. But it's everyone's decision to say, okay, maybe we take 10% or 20% of the hours of the volunteers because we feel like it, then you should do it, you know. I mean, it's not a fixed thing, and I won't get really mad at you if you change it. I mean, just do what you feel feels good. And the second one was, yeah, if you have different things at your farm at the same time. We also have that at Ommuurde Tuin. So we have our boxes, our veggie boxes, but we also have our farm shop, and we sell a little bit also to restaurants. And that is indeed difficult, because then you have to guess the percentage of hours and money that you spend on veggie boxes versus the shop versus other things. Again, we roughly guessed the percentage. I think personally, I don't like to go into very much details. If you feel like it and you have the time and energy to do so, go for it. But I wasn't. I thought, okay, let's say 80% is veggie boxes, 20% is the shop, and that's just a guess. Yes. And the third question, I forgot. What was that?
It was about expansion. So if you're doing, because it might shift the amount of time per share, I guess.
Yeah, true. So you have to indeed guess the amount of people that you will have, and that can then maybe be less, and then you have a problem. Another thing what you can do that is interesting is to say, my farm can have, for example, 200 members, and right now we have 150. So if I divide all my hours and costs, it's a bit higher. But if you all help me looking for new shareholders, and we have 200 people, we can divide the cost over more people, so it will be lower for everyone. And so then you stimulate people to help searching for more members, which is a very interesting thing as well. But yeah, it's true. It depends on the amount of people, and sometimes you can grow, sometimes you have more cancellations or more people come, and yeah, true.
Thanks, Elske. So we've got offers from Rachel at Stroud CSA and Dan at School Farm, so relatively near each other in the southwest, both of whom are thinking about already trying to implement the model and would be really happy to have you come and visit. So I'll put you in touch with both of them. And there's also some other models that people have tried out that I'll share with you. But nice. Yeah, we've got about 8 minutes left. So if anyone has any more questions, please put them in the Q&A.
Meanwhile, I will take the opportunity to say that there is a really nice documentary in English based on the booklet, and it's called Valuing the Work of Farmers. If you put that in YouTube, you will find it. And I think it's really nice to see it. And also, if you think about implementing something with getting a fair price, share the video with your shareholders so they can get a feeling about it, what's going on. I think showing a documentary is a really nice way to open up the discussion. Valuing the Work of Farmers, it's called.
Okay, I can't see any more questions. I just, before the end, and before coming back to say so much thanks to Elske, there's been you've really inspired people. But I wanted to say that the next webinar in this series is the grain chain. So it's arable crops in market gardens. It's on Wednesday, the 31st of August at the same time, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And I've just put the link to that webinar in the chat if you would like to book on. But yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you, Elske. Really enjoyed it, and great to hear how it works and that it's working across different farms in the Netherlands. I wondered whether any larger farms had sort of approached you interested. We've had a few larger farms recently approach us interested in CSA in general, and I just wondered if that was also happening in the Netherlands or particularly around this model.
Yes, around the model also, but it is more challenging. But the whole CSA concept, for sure, more and more interest is coming also from really big arable farmers, for example, who are so sick of the low prices they get from the supermarket. And they say, is there a way we can go around it? And the nice thing is that I found some examples of really huge CSAs. The one was the Kattendorferhof in Germany. And I went someone to go to a very big CSA farm in Switzerland, which was already existing for 40 years. And personally, for me, it was way too big. Like, I was like, whoa, I was overwhelmed. They had 1,000 veggie boxes a week. That's the scale they were at. But to arable farmers who come from this big scale thinking, they really like these stories. So I also really want to document more CSAs that are also almost industrial, because they still work, of course, organic, agricultural as much as possible. And these stories appeal more to farmers who come from big size conventional. So I think those stories are also really important to share so that conventional farmers can start earning a better income, and then on condition, of course, that they go towards more sustainable production. If their shareholders want that, but most of them do. Yes.
Great. I was just fiddling around. I was just fiddling around trying to find the YouTube link to the video Elske mentioned. I've just put it into the chat for everybody. Okay. If there aren't any more questions, I think we will end the webinar there, and just, to say again, thank you very much. I will, it'd be nice to stay on for a few moments, Elske, and just sort of round up. But thank you to all of you who've listened and asked questions, and do get in touch with us. It's CSA Network UK at gmail.com. If you've got further questions, you've got Elske's email, but can also pass stuff on, or if you're interested in what we're doing in the UK and what we've been doing around solidarity and what we will be doing. So thank you very much, and I am going to stop the recording now.